Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 58th episode of Let's Talk About Market. Sorry, there has been a long pause, but this account had got expired, and there were some challenges related to that, which had to be resolved, and it took more time than what we anticipated. But finally, this account is back up and running, so we'll be hopefully doing the regular shows of Let's Talk About Market. Firstly, let me share my screen. There has been a lot that is going on with the market. So let's talk about that. Before that, please let me know if you are able to hear me properly and if you all are able to see my screen properly. Can someone please confirm in the chat box? If someone can confirm in the chat box if they are able to see my screen properly and if they are able to hear me properly. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the confirmation. So if we see, there has been a big divergence that we have seen in the Nifty index and the small cap index, and I want to talk a bit more about that. But firstly, when I speak about the Nifty index, I mean when you see purely this index and when you don't see any other thing, it looks like that everything is okay. Basically, if we see technically there was a breakout after that, which there was a retest and it inched higher, and now again it is seems to be consolidating a bit. And if we zoom out a bit, then broadly this is where it seems to be consolidating or finding resistance. So the whole idea is that to I mean everyone is anticipating that when does it break out on the upside and it rises higher. And many of the complaint is that while the Nifty index is higher, or it is near the all time high, but that is not the case with portfolio, and I think there is no denying on that front. Because when we look at many of the other indices like small cap, that is, I mean, down and out. If you see micro cap index, that is down and out. It is only mid cap and the large cap index, which have managed to come back towards the all time high. But again, I mean, if you see the breadth, so let me just quickly show you the breadth. I mean, that will tell you a story. So if we see the 20-day AD ratio, despite the market being at higher levels, the breadth is still, towards the lower end of its range, which typically tends to be an oversold zone. So the second line is where is like an extreme oversold zone. But, when it comes between this zone, we can safely say that it's in an oversold zone. Similarly, if we see the 40-day AD ratio, which is more of a medium term indication, that again is towards the lower end. And this kind of tells you that the breadth has still not been great, right? So, what do we do? And, how should we think about it? So, there's, and frankly, I mean, in the market, basically, a lot of people are comparing this with 2017-18. I mean, in fact, 2018 to 2020, and saying that that is what can occur. So let me just show you. I mean, this is something that I've heard from few people, and let me show you what I'm frankly thinking about it. So, this was the phase. Let me just highlight it from the vertical line. So this is 2020 over here. Okay. So this was the phase. Sorry. So I should be taking high to high. Basically, this was the case. So over here, there was a clear divergence that was visible, which where the small cap index kept making lower low. There were pullbacks in between from time to time, but broadly, if you see, it was drifting lower. And at the same time, if you see the Nifty index, that was rising higher, and the breadth was very very narrow in that sense. So that is why many of the people are drawing this similarity. But I would frankly think that maybe something of this sort is happening, where if you see the market. Okay, so over here you can see that somewhere around Jan 22 is where almost the Nifty had kind of peaked. So Nifty had peaked 2021, but if you see the mid cap index, they had peaked in Jan 2022. After that, what happened was that it went through a meaningful correction. Over here also we saw meaningful correction due to Ukraine Russia war. And after that we saw Nifty rebounding and again going back towards the all time high. Okay, but at the same time small cap was nowhere near that. And when this correction was happening, it felt like everything is falling apart, right? And this is where over here we eventually ended up getting all the many of the sentiment indicators towards the oversold zone as well. So over here is when actually the market bottomed out and we saw a meaningful breadth expansion. But in this entire phase, basically the breadth was not so great. Just to back it up, let me show you the diffusion indicator so that you understand. So if I do see 20 about 20 DMA, that will sort of tell you how weak the breadth. Sorry, I think the weakness in the breadth might come. So yeah, over here, if you see, I mean, basically a lot of weakness had happened in this minor correction. And this, if you see it in small cap index, over here also, there was this swing from down to up, but then again over here there was a lot of correction, and a lot of stocks had seen a drawdown. And also, if you see the breadth around this phase, okay, the 20 and the 40, it rose higher initially over here, but after that the breadth was very very bad. Okay, it was hovering towards the lower end. Similarly, if you see the 40-day in this new high, basically the breadth was very bad. Okay, and this was because the small cap and all didn't participate. And somewhat something very similar, if you see, we are seeing over here in this up move, there was a good breadth expansion, but after that the breadth hasn't been great. So at what point will there be a capitulation and then all resolves on the upside, that needs to be seen. But the broader point is that when you end up seeing many of the data points like FI future long position, that has been towards the lower end of the range since probably 4 or 5 months or so. Frankly, in the past we haven't ever seen such oversold condition for lasting for such long time. I mean, there used to be big bouts of move in between, leading to a good breadth also in between. But this is an unusual phase where despite the market rising higher, they have been short. The breadth has not been picking up. I mean, I'm not sure what to make of it, but the way that we are thinking about it is that as long as, see, for Nifty index especially, I think for the very near term, this is like a cutoff point. Okay, because whenever you see breadth, the 40-day and the Bollinger Bands also contracting, usually those level are not so easy to break in the short term. Okay, uh, what I mean, if at all it has to break down, basically. So I would think that somewhere over here a support might be taken, and after that it will go down if at all it has to go down. But with such sort of setups, imagining that it will go down right away looks a little difficult at this point. uh, and in fact, if you see the small cap index, okay, so So over here as well, the prior low has now been breached. And if you see in terms of retracement, I think it is around the 50% retracement. And I mean, I was looking into Trading View, and that's where I even bumped across BSC small cap index. So in BSC small cap index, what is happening is that it was very much different from the Nifty, and over here it is kind of coming back towards the lower end of its range, of its downward sloping channel. So I mean this seems to be interesting, but we of course need to see a turnaround from here and a follow. I mean, if this trend line breaks on the downside and it sustains below this, then it may not be good, because then we'll be thinking. I mean, rooms will be opened up for correction up to 50 or 61.8% retracement as well. Okay, now at this point of time, everything seems to be like in a bear grip at this point, because even microcap, if you do this falling channel, it has broken below that and it is now near 50%. But yeah, I mean, a lot of damage is done over here. The main thing now to watch is that whether this effect will come into mid and the large caps, which so far has been resilient, or will this damage in the small cap and the mid cap and the micro cap will reverse and will be eventually rise higher. I mean, that is what the question is right now at this point of time. Undoubtedly, uh, I would say that the trend is down, and until we don't end up seeing reversal, I mean, we'll have to manage the risk. There is no shying away from that. The the only ray of hope, frankly, is that when you see the momentum swing that has come to almost around 15. In fact, during the day it had gone to almost around 11, 12. Okay, and from there we have seen a little bit of rebound. So to all those guys, we have been talking in the past, right? The swing template, which is usually whenever the swing come towards the oversold zone and the Nifty index is trading above the 40-day, we typically end up seeing up move. I mean, this resolving on the upside, which means that at least in the short term, we end up seeing a bounce. Uh, so a better thing would be that both these indices come towards the oversold zone. I mean, that is where a more definitive chance of a durable bounce will come. Okay, so broadly, if I have to see the Nifty index, basically this is the congestion that it needs to break out on the upside. If it does not break this congestion on the upside and it closes below 40-day exponential average, that's where the risk of you know further correction in the Nifty index will set in. Okay, but at this point of time, I mean, given how things are, the expectation will be that probably we should end up getting a bounce or rise higher in the near term. That is also because if you see the diffusion indicator, and this, if you see specifically for the small cap index, okay, that has come to 9 over here. Okay, over here also you can see that when this reading had come to around 18, 14, 15 or something, from there we had got a bounce. So again, because it is percentage of stock about 20 SMA, so we think of it from a shorter term perspective. So from there we got a bounce. So let us see how things unfold. But now I am seeing that percentage of stock above 50 SMA, even percentage of stock above 100 SMA has gone to below 20 levels. So I will be more hopeful of a turnaround from here than to think that everything will collapse. Because see, the only time this is not gonna work, and it might end up becoming oversold for a very, very long time, is when we enter into a phase of a black swan event. Okay, which, I mean, earlier was COVID. I don't know if we have it for 2008, but yeah, you can see over here in 2008 as well. Okay, it was oversold over here. and then it kept remaining oversold for a very long time with some bump in between. But broadly it was oversold. But otherwise, you will keep getting meaningful bumps in between, and then at some point of time, it will reverse. So I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of talk about AI bubble and so on and everything. But if you see all the AI related indices, okay, so let me just show you the global market. So basically, Taiwan, uh, S&P, Kospi. I mean, these are the three, which is like, where AI trades are, more active, and, people are following these indices more. In any of these cases, if you see, important support levels are held. I mean, just to give you a context, this was a trend line breakout. There was a retest, and now it is rising higher. Similarly, if you see Kospi, it has been holding above the 40-day, and it is again moving back. Even if you see, I think Taiwan index is this. Okay, it is pulling back and again rising higher. And in fact, there are so many other indices like Brazil index and all. They have been inching higher. So it was only, I think, the previous day where this sharp decline has come. But more or less, if you see trend wise, they have been inching higher. Uh, Okay, so the other index which I was looking at, this was Jakarta. I mean, it was in a range for a very very long time. So even this now, seems to be indicating that it is breaking this range on the upside. So see, everything kind of will mean revert at some point of time, because it cannot happen that the other indices keep rising higher and Nifty keep falling. uh, Something has to happen. I mean, either Nifty has to catch up or they have to fall. So that is where we'll see how this bigger divergence which is there eventually unfolds. And when we look at the indices, which are the ones which are outperforming within the Nifty indices, so I think IT index now finally seems to be you know bouncing back. I don't know if it is the rupee factor or what, but we have talked about this in length in the past, that there were huge short positions in IT stocks, and most of them are now kind of seeing short covering move playing out. And even in RRG, if you see, there is a very sharp increase in momentum as well as RS relative strength. So these two things augur well from a medium term perspective, and even in the daily thing, you can see that over here the momentum is good. Apart from that, if you see many of these indices on the weekly chart, is probably now starting to see some loss of momentum, be it private banks, Nifty Bank, Nifty Oil and Gas, and so on. So, I'm wondering, like, what is going to hold out? I mean, so far, it is only IT that seems to be looking up. Apart from that, most of the indices are either seeing a turnaround in momentum, or their RS and momentum is still falling. So I don't know. I mean, let's see how things unfold. At this point of time, if you ask me, I mean, for Nifty index specifically, I'm watching out the 40-day exponential average very closely. Okay, I think if this is broken on the downside, and if it sustains below that for a day or two, uh, I mean, there could be a risk of a correction then playing out. In which case, I don't know if the correction happens still here or it gets deeper. I mean, those are all things that we'll look at it at that point of time. But yes, broadly, I mean, that is how the setup is. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to update today's data as well. I suspect that the market breadth, which is already very weak, maybe if we have such kind of moves, we might end up seeing even the 20-day probably going back towards the second line on the downside. So that is how the setup is. Broadly, things are oversold, but not to very extreme levels as of now. And even if they reach to an extreme level, basically we need to see a turnaround, because the kind of damage that is happening in the stocks, that is not looking good. Okay, So yes, that is what the broader outlook is. And to be very honest, I thought that at some point of time, small and the micro cap will catch up on the upside, but frankly, that has not happened yet. So we need to see the signs of that happening. uh, are the ingredients in place for that? Yes. Is there a fear in the market at this point of time? Yes. But how long can this fear extend, and how long can this price damage continue? I don't know. And for that, we have to watch the market internals very closely. So yes, I mean, see, if the percentage of stock above 100 SMA, if that comes to say a single digit or something like that for the small cap index especially, I think that would be the time when odds will be in your favor. Okay, what I mean to say is, just like you see that over here this has come to 9, right? I mean, this, if we want to have a lot more durable rally, so if this percentage of stock above 100 SMA, if that comes to around maybe 10 9 or something like that, then we can to certain extent say that risk reward could be in your favor. And then after, if we end up seeing meaningful reversal, those could be the signs that the capitulation phase is possibly complete and we could be headed higher. But until then, I mean, as of now, the trend is with the bears. And the important data, then, I mean, the important thing now to watch out for is how Nifty behaves, because so far it has been behaving pretty well. But I mean, in today's session, especially, we have seen some crack in the mid cap index, because even this was following 40-day for quite some time, but now today it has broken decisively. So we have to watch Nifty what it does over here. I mean, if we get those signs, then we have to be careful. Even Bank Nifty, which has been pretty much resilient, that is actually right now even above the 20 day. But at some point of time, because we are seeing so much of negativity and so on, maybe the least you would expect is a RMI cycle getting complete. If the RMI cycle gets complete, 40 is held and then it turns around, then it could be a sign that the next leg of up move could be starting. So basically, that is how we are placed at this point of time. Need to, I mean, small mid caps, butchered, but we need to see whether we are getting some sort of reversal in the Nifty index or no. And for that, maybe drawing a channel could be a good idea, right? And if we end up seeing a breakout from this channel on the upside, and all this is happening, if the Nifty index manages to hold above the 40-day exponential average, then the hope will be that the breadth may expand. Else, there is a risk, that is brewing right now. So with that, I mean, if you'll have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. But yeah, I mean, this is what the observation is. I mean, I'm kind of on the edge right now. And to be honest, I mean, those fears are creeping in, where whether the Nifty index will break down or no, because mid cap index was one of the strongest one, which had broken the 20-day, I mean, the 40-day exponential average today. So how does the Nifty index do? I mean, this is something that we need to watch. But yeah, I mean, the only silver lining, as I mentioned, is that the daily swing, which is almost around, I think, around 14 or 15 or something like that, and it's holding above the 40-day exponential average as well. So that is the most important part. So let's see, fingers crossed. If if uh, if this support is held, then the expectation will be that we might end up seeing a bounce. So that is what the idea is right now. So let's see, I mean, if you'll have any questions, we can take it up for 10-15 minutes, and then we can wind up the session. So any questions, please put in to the chat box. I'll try and address it. Any questions, please put it in the chat box. Any questions? I'll wait for a minute if there are any questions. If not, then we'll probably end the session for today. And yes, I mean, as I had told earlier as well, we'll probably keeping 5 o'clock in the evening as the time for now, because during market it becomes a little hectic, and so yeah. No, in fact, if you see any of the indicators, on the positioning, it all points out towards pessimism or panic that is there, because as you all are aware that usually Nifty bottoms out when DIs are extremely long, right? And FIIs when they are extreme short, those are the times where usually meaningful bottom occurs, as you see over here. So there is definitely a range shift that has happened in 2025. I don't know if this is the newer range that we have to work with. Uh, but yeah, I mean, given that there's a meaningful pessimism that is there, and important levels are held in the Nifty index, so the expectation will be that at some point of time we end up seeing a pickup, because broadly, if you technically see, what is happening is that the Nifty index conquered higher level, and now it seems to be consolidating over there. So the expectation will be that at some point we end up getting a breakout. But for that to happen, none of the important levels should break on the downside. And the important level, as I mentioned, was the is the 40-day exponential average, especially for the Nifty index. I mean, that if that holds, there will be some degree of confidence to think that breakout should occur on the upside eventually. Is it's a problem. So Akhil says, what sentiment indicators were suggesting. So, Akhil, this is what I mean. If you are aware, we have discussed this over here also. That there are these many indicators that are there, right? So there are few that we follow for short term. There are few that we follow for the medium term. There are few that we follow for the long term, right? Everything is explained over here. There is a swing called as that. I mean, there is an indicator called as swing, which is a proprietary indicator. That seems to be suggesting an extreme oversold zone in the near term. So again, please remember that this works only for a very very short period of time. Okay, maybe for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day perspective. So that's where at least this indicator is telling that a bounce should come in the near term. Okay, and this holds true as long as the 40-day does not break on the downside. If 40-day breaks on the downside, then there is a bit of a risk that we are looking at. But I think if this holds, ideally, we are seeing a kind of a downward channel or flag, whatever you call it, is possibly forming. So maybe it touches the lower end over here and then tries to bounce back. I mean, that we need to see. But yes, on the downside, basically, this area is very very important. So the previous low happened at 25,842, and the 40-day exponential is at 25,808. So this will be an important support zone. So if I have to round it up, it is basically 25,800, which is an important support level that should not break. And ideally, if you see the options data as well, I mean, I was looking at it in the morning. I don't know what has, I mean, in the afternoon, I don't know what has happened after that. Okay, so there has been a significant shedding. Okay, no. So as you can see over here, 25,600 is where there is a meaningful open interest that is still left. Of course, there is a lot of shedding that has happened, but if you see almost around 12 or so, there was actually a built up over here, and this bar was looking very huge. Okay, and just to give you a context, I mean, right now the future prices is still at 26,050. So we are still above this 26,000 mark, and this have taken the combined OI, which means OI of all the possible expiries that are open for the Nifty index. and that seems to be suggesting that 28,000 is an important support. But yes, this shedding is not so good. uh, I mean, sorry, if I go to this EOD data, the shedding is not good. So need to see, how Nifty also reacts around this 26,000 mark on the future index. That will sort of help us to get some clue. Is the market going down because of rupee downfall? I, I don't think so. That should be the case. I don't think so, because I mean, we try to correlate a lot with no, index, but there have been phases where if you see USD INR, basically you can see that from May to September it was rising higher, right? From 83 it had gone to almost around 88 or so. In that phase, you would have expected Nifty to collapse, but nothing of that sort happened, right? It was May, somewhere over here. After that, also Nifty did make highs. After that, it went for a consolidation. But yes, I mean that's about it. After that, also we have seen a meaningful pickup. So I don't think, I mean, rupee is a factor. But yes, I mean definitely FI is not participating and relentlessly selling. That is surely a concern. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long will the DIs also support the market. So let's see. Uh, but see, as I have told you, and this I'm telling you with fair bit of experience, that something like that was happening even over here, right? But I think as long as important levels are held, eventually we should be heading higher. At this point of time, the only risk if the 40-day breaks is that whether we correct till here and then we rise higher. I mean, that is the risk that will genuinely open up, and that is what we have to manage at this point of time. But trying to think that the market falls on such bearish indication which is already there, hard to believe, frankly. I mean, any of the corrections that you see over there, at least there have been meaningful long positions, and due to those unwinding and then fresh shorting, we have ended up getting, this bigger moves. At this point of time, it's already at a very meaningful oversold. I mean, today's data has also not come out yet. Who knows? I mean, today might have gone to 140 or something like that. So to imagine a big correction or crash or something when the sentiments are already that bearish, not sure. Let's see how things unfold. FIs are still bearish and the market is going up. So market is going up is what you're saying, but you ask the participant, it is. I mean, we definitely the pain is there. Okay, so FIIs are creating some pain to the market for sure. Uh, the opportunity is that if the market eventually breaks out on the upside and hits a new all-time high and sustains there, at this point of time, the problem is that Nifty is unable to sustain around the all-time high, right? I mean, it is repeatedly seeing pressure over there, and that is the concern. I think if this breakout happens, it should ideally, we should be able to see a good short covering. In fact, we even saw a good short covering over here, right? Over here. Then, even in this move, when actually the breakout occurred, which was over here, right? Over here, when the breakout occurred, I mean, that's where a significant short covering move also came. So, I would be hoping and expecting that if this zone is broken on the upside and the Nifty index kind of sustains above it, then we might end up seeing a good short covering. And more importantly, the breadth, which is so depressed right now, I think even that should then pick up. Under diffusion, if you check percentage of stocks, RMI buy for total market, there seems to be divergence. Yes, because in the past few days, especially, there has been. I mean, RMIs have been moving higher. That is because the pace of the decline had come down. Okay, so that is where we were seeing this happening, but yes, I mean that's what. So if this also comes, so you remember if I think, wait, let me show you. So if we, so we had sort of chosen these five indicators, right? If these five indicators, everything come towards the oversold zone all at the same time, then nothing like it. I mean, you have to be a lot more aggressive because I mean, think in terms of the risk, it is on your side. Okay, there is a very low risk when all of this comes to an oversold zone altogether. Okay, uh, now we are seeing what we are seeing at this point of time is that many of the medium term indicators are in oversold, but in daily everything has not come in oversold. So maybe there can be a little more correction in the near term which takes all this short term indicators into oversold, and that's where we end up getting meaningful bounce. uh, I mean, that is what it is at this point of time. If you see daily swing, it has come to oversold. Percentage of stock about 20, that has come to oversold. RMI buy has not come. Average swing has not come. OIPCR has not come. Right? Wait, let me also check OIPCR. But I think even that has not come. That is also somewhere in the middle. So in fact, so yeah, because this is a bit of a lagging indicator, it is 9 MA. So but over here also it is rather on the upside. So there is a lot of room that is there, especially this indicator is telling. So I am not sure how will it play out. But for this, that's why as I said, 40-day exponential plays an important role. If this breaks on the downside, I mean, at least the bullish bets in the near term or the hope of a reversal in the near term, is uh, will go for a toss in the near term. So that is what it is right now. So yeah, I think it's 5:37. We are almost 37 minutes into the session, so we'll try to keep it 30 to 40 minutes a day. And I think so. So with those thoughts, let's end the session today, and let's catch up tomorrow and see what the market does. But at this point of time, as I mentioned, just to summarize, watch out for the swing indicator. Watch out for some strength in the swing indicator. If that happens and we manage to stay above the 40-day exponential average, then we can expect some short term move on the upside. And more importantly, watch out for this channel. If there is a breakout above this falling trend line, then again it will be viewed positively, and the expectation will be that a capitulation is done and maybe now we should be heading higher. So with those thoughts, let's wind up for the day and let's catch up tomorrow.